We're here back home, and it's time to check the DLC, The World of the Recycled Vessel, or as it is sometimes called, the 15 Nightmares. Yeah, let's go take a look.
What might that be?
It's Mom's diary.
I have not heard you speak much about your mother.
She got the Black Scrawl and died when I was little.
My apologies for bringing it up.
It's all right. I can barely remember her face anymore. This is the only thing I have left of her. Reading it helps remind me of when we were still a family.
I see.
But the final entries get a little strange.
In what way?
Well, here. Take a look.
Oh, I'm super excited.
Say there, can you not hear me?
There he is, the good protagonist. Oh, damn.
Why are you standing about like a slack-jawed ninny?
Sorry. Felt like I was dreaming or something.
Sleeping on one's feet is quite the talent indeed. Come now, there's the door.
Right. Let's go.
Meet Father-Nier, the good protagonist, the one that actually makes sense and is adequate for this game. Proceed beyond this point and you will be unable to save until the battle is over. You want to go through the door? Yes. But as far as I understand, the DLC is about battle gauntlets, so this should be a pretty gameplay-heavy episode. Ooh, nice music. This is the world of the recycled vessel, created to avoid the destruction of all. I think I'm gonna take the time to go over some of the things I would particularly like to say about the game as a whole. Some of its themes, I will probably focus a little bit on the thematic of the narrative and how the game develops some of its topics, as well as just general thoughts about the narrative. But yeah, it all starts really with our protagonist over here. And I gotta say, after having played the game now and experienced the point of view of the brother, I vastly still remain, in my opinion, that the father was a much stronger character. Although, don't get me wrong, I understand that the brother character plays an important role for the message that the game is trying to portray, because the character of Nier, regardless of age, is supposed to be a subversion of the standard JRPG hero. So you have this idea of the young man who is coming of age and declaring his will to live, as he does in the ending of the game. However, that is supported by a backdrop of random carnage in a way that is completely disproportional, and the game goes out of its way to show you that you are not being a particularly reasonable person time and time again. With even the support characters, Devil and Popola, declaring that all of this time you have been killing humans, and the excuse that they are just monsters really falls away at that point. Did I walk the wrong direction or something? What's up? Is anybody alive that I forgot? Oh, what is his jump like? Oh, it's the same as it. That's unfortunate. This sounds like Drinking Out 3 music. I wonder if it was like this originally. Well, all of that is used to enhance this notion that Nier is not supposed to be a standard JRPG protagonist. The Black Scrawl, a lost destiny, a white book, a false truth. He is supposed to be a subversion of all of that, in the sense that you have someone who really believes that they are in the right, but that's only his perception of things. And I remember having mentioned this in the previous episodes. I think it was around the time we went to the area or something. But we have already stumbled several times in the game in the situation where it is all about perception. It is all about what we believe to be right, but whatever it is, even if we think we are being sympathetic, that thought is forever limited by how we can understand the other's perspective to be. I like this a lot. Really good music, and I don't know, the weird visuals are weird but in an interesting, fun way. It's the sort of stuff that, of course, if you did the entire game like this, it would be literally painful. But for a thing that lasts like 5 minutes, yeah, this is pretty cool. Soldiers of salt calling forth white death. They are legion, those who plunge the world into darkness. This is all Drakengard references, which makes me extremely happy. By the way, if you have not been checking out the Drakengard playthrough, you should probably go ahead and do that. It's really good. I mean, the game is bad, but the Let's Play is pretty decent, if I may say so myself. And the character of Nier is an exploration of that topic. Because in his self-righteousness, Nier eventually dooms everything and everybody. Which is... it is a stronger message when it's being done by a younger protagonist, because the protagonist of this game, the brother-Nier, he really is a much more stereotypical JRPG hero. However, his presence really diminishes a lot of the themes that are around these main points that Nier is trying to put forward. And for instance, I really think the narrative is a lot weaker when you have this main character that is just trying to be lovely and misunderstood, and I don't know. Obtain one-handed sword, Fool's Embrace, nice. And medicinal herb ×3. The dragon's corpse brought death to the world, delivering onto it the power of magic. So is this DLC just explaining the backstory a whole bunch? That's really useful, actually. Let me put it this way. Perhaps the brother character is easier to identify for somebody who is really into the idea of the standard Japanese protagonist. But his point of view is not a particularly refined narrative, in the sense that the subversion only really works on one level, because it is a level of, oh, you thought this was a everyday Japanese pretty boy, and it's not. However, the subversion that we have with the father character ends up being a much stronger one, not only because he is not just a Japanese pretty boy, although he is in a Japanese pretty boy context. Everything that exists around him supports that idea, and him being not that was a subversion in and of itself. This is great music, I love this. The black sickness stains the future. They journey to return to soulless vassals. However, their characters are essentially different. And that is something that I think a lot of people have missed in this situation. And this is particularly interesting if you compare the first part of the game, where with brother-Nier we have this really young and really idealistic and naive, always super upbeat protagonist. And when he becomes a quote-unquote adult, he is not any more naive or idealistic. I guess my main problem with the brother character is that there was definitely a chance for growth there, for a character arc that didn't really materialize. Nier doesn't really change all that much from his child persona to his adult persona. It's kind of weird how he's stuck in that period, and you can make an argument for Arrested Development, but I don't think that's what they tried to portray at all. It just feels like a character that has no real development. He doesn't, or at least maybe his development is just too subtle for my liking, in the sense that he says now and then, I don't trust Devil, I don't like Popo anymore, whatever. But it feels very superficial, it feels kind of shallow. And if you contrast that to the way that the father character worked on Gestalt, you have a much more interesting character arc for the father, because the father character starts the game almost the exact opposite of the young boy naive idealism. Obtained a kabuki outfit. Whoa, what's this about? He starts the game pretty much depressed. I would almost say on the edge of giving up. He's not willing to give up on his daughter. He's not willing to give up on Yona. But he seems to be very okay with the idea of giving up on himself. So he's not a person who is portrayed as being particularly concerned with his own well-being. He's a lot more interested in just helping whoever he can at his own detriment, which is not really a thing that the brother character portrays all that well. The apocalypse divided the world in two, one that knows not day, and one which has never seen the night. And then when the time skip happens, while the brother character doesn't really have that much of an arc at all, the father does, because he becomes a particularly different character. He becomes a lot more violent. He becomes a lot more impulsive and willing to do violence. Black and white, 13 pacts. The vessel's forms waver as they cross time and space. And I am sure I mentioned about this in the Drakengard playthrough at some point, but the games that Yoko Taro have made, they are all in one way or another about the overall subject of violence. And what does it mean to commit violence? What is violence to yourself? What is violence to others? They are all drastically concerned with violence and its social implications, and what does it actually mean to be a violent person? What does that entail? What does it take for a person to do violence? And in Drakengard, that is a very interesting question and a very interesting exploration. Because the way that Drakengard works is basically, okay, so we have this person who is very, very willing to kill thousands and thousands of people. How would a person like that actually be? How would they actually function in a medieval fantasy setting? And that is the protagonist of Kain, a person who is just completely psychotic. And it is really interesting because Kain is also a subversion of the Japanese JRPG hero, but in an entirely different way. He is just not concerned with anything that is not murder. That is his thing. It's the only thing that he cares about doing, is the only thing that he does the entire game. Nier, meanwhile, is a slightly more refined take on that question. So while Drakengard was just being like, I guess a person who kills thousands of people is just psychotic, and that's that.
It seems we have been shut in.
That's the only available answer. That is the answer presented by the game. However, Nier takes the same question and it deals with it in a more mature and relative way. And that is to say, what does it take for someone to kill thousands and thousands of people? Well, they have to think they are right. And so, the greatest trick being played by Nier as a game and as a narrative is to put you in the sides of the villain. And don't be mistaken about this for a single second. Nier is the villain of this story. We play the villain the entire game. And we'll continue to do it for some hours still. And he is the cause of the death of all humanity. You cannot call that anything else but a villain. And in that space, what we end up with is this exploration of the whole theme of point of view. Because you do all these things because you truly 100% believe in your rightness, in your entitlement perhaps to do that. We kill the shades because we think them as monsters. There is no other alternative to this. It is the way that it is. Like, what else could they possibly be? The song of man has been drawn out. In its place, the scream of something inhuman. And all of that is to enhance this notion of point of view and a subversion of the usual JRPG, but also to explore this theme of violence. And what does it mean to do it? Who we are when we do violence to each other. And yeah, I think it's really well done. I really like the way that this game works. But I really think that in trying to be more direct with the subversion, the game loses something in the character arc of its protagonist, but also in the thematics, because there is a lot of, well, really heavy things going on in this game. And the brother protagonist just seems woefully inadequate to deal with a lot of it. And perhaps that is also a part of the message, that a young protagonist is not capable of dealing with the things that are trusted upon them, as is the vast majority of games, especially Japanese RPGs. Obtain two-handed sword, fool's limit. Nice. The sky falls with the dragon. The world ends this day. Let's use our new toy. Oh, it's a two-handed sword, right? Ooh, that looks nice. 400 attack. Also very heavy. It's very heavy, but it's like quick as shit. It makes no sense. What is this? Is it like a parking lot? Like a basketball court? Wow. So there's like new scenery for this thing? That is pretty cool. I also don't think this shade exists during the normal course of the game. So there are unique enemies as well. But again, and this is just my opinion, you don't have to agree, and I don't think I'm like 100% right about this, it's just what I think. But like, I don't think my interpretation of this is any, I guess I do think it's better, that's why I'm arguing for it. But it is, I can admit that it's just one of the possible many points of view that you could have about a game. But anyway, or about a narrative, about a piece of art in general. But yeah, in portraying the character as this forever naive person who is he's just, I guess my problem with the brother character is that he is a subversion by context, but in and of itself, he is still a cliche. So that only really works on one level, while the father character is a subversion of the cliche at face value, but he is also a subversion of a lot of other cliches when you look a little bit deeper into it. And his existence as someone who is veering towards depression and doesn't care for himself at first, and develops that into aggression at the later half of the game. His character helps support the overall narrative and thematic of the game a lot better than just the brother character does. And seeing his character model in the game, I really hope somebody somewhere somehow will try to mod the game so that I can play with him the entire time and just like rip the audio straight out of the PS3 version and just paste it here. I would love that. I would love it if that was official. I would buy that DLC. It's like, yeah, here, have it. Brother-Nier story mode. Take it. I would gladly go for that. Because as I just spent like half an hour explaining, I do think it is a much, much better story. But yeah, those are my general thoughts on this whole issue. And the puppet priest collects the accursed prayers and polishes the vessel. Whoa, what is this? What is going to happen here? Is this like first person? Holy shit, what? That is amazing. In a way that's not very good, but why would you turn your game into a very slow moving on rails thing? And the aiming is also fairly automatic in the same way that is in the game. You don't really need to aim at all. As long as you're essentially in the general vicinity of the enemy, you will hit. I like this DLC a lot. I wonder, I would really like to do an episode that is sort of just going over the backstory of this game. Because unless this is something they added, it wasn't all that well explained in the original game. And I think their preoccupations with the remake were more in line with making it connect to Automata than with Drakengard, which makes sense, fair enough. I remember at some point earlier in the playthrough, I think it was during the ship, I was commenting that if a sequel to this game was to be made, I would rather it be something adjacent. And by adjacent, I mean something that doesn't really connect at all, at least not directly, to like Nier and Kaine and Emil, but something that can stand in its own way. In the same way that Automata is fairly distinct from this game. If there was ever to be a Nier 3, I guess, I would love if they made just a prequel. I want something that takes place in the 2000s when everything is getting absolutely fucked and wrecked, which is basically what the white text on, what the text that appears interspersed in this DLC is referring to. I want something that really develops that, because that is really interesting. And I would love to do a timeline sort of episode that goes over the backstory. but I need to do some research for that. Obviously, I don't remember everything. For as much shit as I give the lore of this game, like I don't think it's really all that worth bothering. It does have a lot of interesting bits of information and I don't know, just things to it. So there is actually some necessity to aim. It's just that there isn't a reticle in the screen unless you are actively aiming for it. This is starting to go on for a little bit too long, but we are also almost at a complete run of the city, like a complete cycle of it. Let's see. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt. Obtain a samurai outfit. Ooh. That's nice.